Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to remind my colleagues across the aisle that President Trump said 15 days to slow the spread. 15 days is quite different from 6 months, 1 year, a year and a half, and even more. 15 days, big difference. And then he said reopen. So just want to make sure that everybody's clear on that. We can't rewrite history.
Will the gentleman yield?
No, absolutely not. We want history to remain truthful. Mr. Schwartzman, I listened to your testimony, and you said, like all fundamental rights, religious freedom has limits, especially when exemptions impose serious harms on other people. As Justice Robert Jackson once said, according to you, the Bill of Rights is not a suicide pact. You said under current law, particularly when the government has a compelling interest, such as preventing the spread of a deadly pandemic, it can impose restrictions on even the most cherished and important of our individual liberties, as long as it does so even-handedly. Mr. Schwartzman, casinos were mandated to cap at 50% capacity, but yet churches were capped at 50 people. Didn't even matter how many people are in their congregation. Do you consider that even-handedly?
I'm not a public health official or
That's
a local
a yes
official.
or no, Mr. Schwartzman.
Well, I think that's a question that you would have to ask Nevada state officials. And the Supreme Court, when it decided Calvary Chapel on July 24th, 2020.
Mr. Schwartzman, I'm asking you, do you consider in your opinion that even-handedly?
The court recognized, I think, that 1,100 people in the United States died the day that the Supreme Court made that decision, and it was for local officials to respond to those conditions on the ground as they saw fit. And
Mr. Schwartzman, shutdowns that supposedly prevent the spread of a virus cause suicides to increase in every single age group of all ages, but especially the highest in teenagers. Do you consider that even-handedly?
I'd say when the Supreme Court decided the New York case, 2,200 people died that day. When it decided the school closing case in December, 3,500 people died that day.
So, Mr. Schwartzman, you believe that teenagers should commit suicide because people with comorbidities such as obesity and people at very high risk of dying from COVID-19 is okay as long as the Supreme Court says so. Let's move on.
Absolutely
Liquor
not.
stores and marijuana dispensaries stayed open, liquor stores and dispensaries, but gyms had to close. And obesity was one of the leading comorbidities. That's not even-handedly. That's actually wrong that they shut down gyms. Let's talk about, was it right to put COVID patients in with our grandparents and parents in nursing homes, actually murdering them? Do you consider that even-handedly?
With respect, the risk of the various kinds of activities that you're describing varied greatly, and public health officials use scientific assessments and data to distinguish those kinds of activities and to regulate accordingly.